hour is upon us. Why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order, please? If I could ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, and then ask Mr. Stone to lead us in the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Todd. Oh. Shall we call the roll, please?
Mrs. Hambrick, Mr. Hampton.
Here.
Mr. Leslie. Here. Mrs. Leslie Mitchell. Here. Mrs. Tingle Sains. Mr. Showalter. Here. Mr. Stone. Here. Mrs. Tackett. Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Everyone's heard from Karen today. She is still recovering from hip replacement surgery and not able to get out and about. So she sends her best. And also Willow is across the big pond. She and Horace are helping their granddaughter enroll at Oxford. So pretty exciting stuff there. Yeah. Okay, each of you should have a copy of the minutes of our last meeting if you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thanks, Todd. There are no questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Also, each council member should have received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate if you received that. Thanks. Under public comments, we have one gentleman signed up, Mr. Austin Render. Austin?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Austin Render. I'm one of the co-founders of the Bourbon Burn. It's a 3-day bike tour and bourbon festival based out of the Kentucky Horse Park. We've been hosting this event since 2017. We welcome about 1,000 riders this year from nearly all 50 states. Now, this is the first year we've looked at bringing a route through Georgetown, just changing things up a little bit. Wanted to show off the beautiful town of Georgetown. I wanted to just talk through that with you today. So the event date, the particular day in question is Saturday, October 1st. We were expecting about 1,000 riders. We're actually over that number right now, but those numbers tend to fall a bit between now and the end of the ride. Now, since submitting this packet to you all, there has been very recently a slight change to the route. Nothing major, but I do want to talk through that with you all. Originally, our plan was to visit Bourbon 30's new location in construction in Frankfort. That's not quite going to be open by October 1st. So they've asked if we'd be willing to consider coming to the Georgetown location. We'd love to do that. The route doesn't deviate so much from what was originally proposed in the packet there. I think everyone should have those maps. And if you're able to flip to, I think it's the fourth one in there, it's the close-up that shows the route passing through Main Street. What I'd like to propose is as the route enters town from Lemons Mill onto Military, heading north on Military Street, instead of turning left onto Main Street, we actually turn left and head west onto College Street, which sets us up to then cross Broadway and hit a T intersection there at Water. And I've spoken with the Parks Department. They said that we could set up a support stop there at Royal Spring Park. So we'll have some water and snacks, bike racks for the participants to set up their bikes, and then walk right across the street to Bourbon 30. Bourbon 30 is in support of it as well. As far as exiting from the distillery, they would then head south. We know that I just learned today that Water is now a one-way street, but head south onto Water, west onto Clinton, and then turn north onto Royal Spring Park, and then right onto Main Street. And then we pick up that original route, which would then head north out of town onto Broadway. So the main deviation is between Military and Broadway, sending folks over across College in order to avoid any left-hand turns across Main Street or Broadway. So we go straight across Broadway, down to Water, visit the distillery, and then loop around the block and back up to Main Street. I know it's less than ideal to talk through it like that, and I apologize for this last minute change, but it has been pretty last minute. Do you all have any questions or comments so far?
Several.
Sure. Please.
When we have a lot of experience with bicycle events.
Sure.
We're the primary host community for the Horsey
course.
100, and but we do that event with a very, very high degree of coordination.
Sure.
You mentioned tourism. Has the Chief Allgood, have you all seen these maps, or has the police department had a chance to work with you in tourism? Do you know, or is this fresh to them?
I have sent the map to the police.
Okay.
Officer Payton.
Okay. So the deviation makes sense, given your destination change, but those are technicalities that we rarely hash out in real time in the council meeting.
Sure.
Everything else in place in
On
there?
Insurance?
insurance.
So it's in the application, the binding process. I was hopeful that it would be complete today. I've included that application and all prior years all prior year certificate of insurance, just to show you that we've done this before and it's par for the course for us. We're just actually about a week out from that actually binding.
Yeah.
So, and I have copies here if you're interested in seeing that application.
You probably found Laurie Saunders to be a pretty engaged partner.
She is, yeah. She's in support of it. We've kind of gotten involved with Georgetown later in the game this year as far as any kind of sponsorship. All we're really asking would be kind of her endorsement, essentially. With our base camp being only about 6 miles away over at the Kentucky Horse Park, we actually have a hotel block of 100 rooms here in Georgetown that have already filled up and sold out months ago. So Lori was, I think, not disappointed to hear that. And then we have a shuttle bus that runs those riders back and forth. So certain contingency of our riders are staying here in Georgetown, and we'll for sure be visiting the distillery and other businesses.
Yeah, we claim the horse park.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the best 200 acres of it are in Scott County.
Couldn't disagree more.
And it's actually closer to the entrance of the horse park from Georgetown than it is Lexington. So
Yeah.
we all kidding aside, we garner tremendous economic gain from events at the horse park, and they do flock to Georgetown.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I wanted to ask too,
Yes, ma'am.
that's a tricky deviation, that crossing Broadway at that point. Do most of the riders come through within like an hour of one another?
It's a good question. The answer is no. So we don't have a mass start. The course opens at 7 a.m. And so you're familiar with the Horsey, of course. So this is similar in that regard, that there's a short, medium, long, and even a Century 100-mile ride. So some of those riders are heading out early at 7 a.m. And then we ask that everyone else is out of the horse park by 9. There's always some stragglers. So it does spread it out, for better, for worse. But rather than having a mass inundation on the streets, it spreads it out over the course of a few hours. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is working with the local police department to set up some traffic control. And that's one of them that's on my list. So I've got 2 for sure, and then a third one. One would be Highway 32 out at US 25 as they exit Broadway and turn left. Absolutely would have one there from about 7:30 until roughly 11:30 or so to get those stragglers. Main and Broadway, just because it's Main and Broadway, and we'd be making a left-hand turn from Main onto Broadway. But then the third one would be there at Main and College, and I'm absolutely happy to make that happen.
It's blind going across.
I noticed that today, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great, and I'm glad you're bringing it through.
We're excited.
So.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited.
Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
And second. With some details yet to be worked out.
Absolutely.
As soon as it hits the event calendar, Officer Payton will contact you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Yes.
For the future, would the Legacy Trail, would that be large enough to accommodate your riders, Ms. Payne?
Whoops. Yes and no. So we utilize it to a degree in that riders have discovered that they can ride from the horse park to West Six Brewery and to Bluegrass Distillers. It's not, our event would be too large to send 1,000 riders down, I think. But like on Thursday, there's kind of an unofficial warm-up ride. Does that answer your question?
Oh, just thinking about the future and the Legacy Trail coming into Georgetown.
Oh,
South
absolutely.
Carolina.
Yeah. So in that regard, yes, I think so. As long as we get permission and, you know, all parties involved are okay with that, and we can, I think, set the expectation of the community that there will be an influx of riders on those days between those hours. Absolutely. I would love to see that. So.
Yeah, it's really closer to a reality than people think, David.
I would love to see it happen.
Yeah, there's county has a grant application now in to complete the trail through the Scott County portion of the horse park over to Lyle Road, and then we have the soccer fields, and then we have a route already mapped out. It can happen
Nice.
pretty quickly.
Is there a timeline?
Funding.
Sure.
County should hear something before the end of this year on their grant.
Great.
If there are no other questions for Austin, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? Good luck, Austin.
Thank you. And I hope you don't think it rude, but I've got a 6-month pregnant wife and a 2-year-old at home, so I'm going to get on the road and help with
We're
dinner
gonna-
and bedtime and bath time. Oh, yeah, trust me.
We're going to let you do that.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Let's see, under mayor's comments, just a couple. Before the council meets again, we will, the Findlay 5K will occur, which it seems like it's been a part of our community forever, but it's only been 10 short years since the Ellisons put that event together. And this is their last year. So I think it's very special, and just wanted to mention that to you all. We will have a proclamation and an acknowledgement from the city about the event. And details cooking on the Festival of the Horse. That shouldn't be long as well. Any questions about that or anything else that I haven't mentioned? Thank you. Item 7 on our agenda has been put off until the next meeting. The presentation from our architects. We thought we would have some real meaty numbers for you tonight that the architects could really give us an idea of the next steps. They don't have all those numbers, so it would have been kind of a hollow presentation, and we'll reschedule that for the next time, we hope. Item 8 under GMWSS, Chase has got a couple of things.
Good evening. Andrew told me, but not for Georgetown Municipal, you all would have had a 10-minute meeting, so I apologize. I've got 4 items for your consideration tonight. The first 2 are somewhat routine. The second 2 might involve a little more discussion. So if you'll allow me, I'll run through these first 2 real quick. First is our 2022 and 2023 material bid, annual material bid contract for your consideration. Includes the things that we use on a daily basis. We're buying constantly. That's pipe, fittings, meters. We bid these once a year. And when I bring you purchase orders throughout the year and I say our method of procurement, those are bid prices, this is what I'm referring to. So you have that list of all the vendors that submitted bids on the different items, and I'll ask for your consideration of the contracts with each one of those vendors.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you, Todd. And second, Tammy? If there are no questions for Chase, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Okay, second is our DigTix service agreement, and this is an annual contract. We renew it. This is for software that organizes, stores, and tracks all of our information related to our Kentucky 811 underground utility locate requests that our locators use. This is, again, software. It's $7,000 annually through 4 IQ solutions. This is a budgeted purchase in our FY23 budget within the IT budget.
Motion made.
Thank you.
Second, Mayor.
And thank you, Greg. Second. Yeah, I noticed that on your GMWSS board agenda. Just a distinctive name. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item C, if I could just, Chase,
Yep.
just briefly, before you go forward. Item C, we're bringing to you a master services agreement and task order number 1 for a rate study. And this is the rate study that is necessitated by wastewater plant 1's change order. The one that, where mistakes were made. And we ultimately determined what corrective actions had to be taken. And council approved that change order. We had little alternative but to approve that change order. The funding for that change order will come through a rate increase, which has to be, in advance of that, has to be a rate study. And this is authorizing the next step in the process that we knew we were going to be faced with. The rate study will be finished whenever it's done. But it is appropriate for us to go forward and get this contract on board. I'll give it to you for any further details. It's
I
just
think
the context for the council.
I think you teed that up very nicely. Again, this is task order. It's the master services agreement, which the vendor is actually already under a master services agreement, but we decided to go ahead and update that. Current one was from 2013, so we're updating that. And then the task order number 1 is for a not to exceed fee of $26,500. Just some minor changes to what's in your board packet since I actually got our information to Tracy early last week, and then I had some changes. Those changes are to 2 things. In the master services agreement, there will be some change to the legalese of the arbitration and mediation sections. Those aren't finalized yet, but we still need to move forward. The second part is in task order 1, the schedule. The timing of this does not escape me. It really does not, but we put in a schedule, a very aggressive schedule. Do I think that that's necessarily what we're going to stick to? No, I do not. I think that we will go through this effort, and when it is ready and it is complete and it's right, that's when we'll present it. But we did want to have something of a schedule in there. Again, I don't know how closely we will follow that, though. So project manager with New Gen Strategies and Solutions. He's completed multiple rate studies for this utility in its history. And as I identified in your memo, what we are looking at are things that we did not anticipate or know that were going to happen back when we looked at the rates in 2019. I tried to spell those out. We're going to be looking at overages on the South Sewer Extension contract that we incurred. Those were when we negotiated the user agreement. That was right in the middle of COVID. When it started, we had a lot of price escalations there. Those were things that were not anticipated. Cost escalations on our overall 5-year capital program that we developed and implemented starting in 2019. We've got to take a look back there. We had contingency in each one of those project budgets, but what's happened since is we did not account for what has happened since 2019. As the mayor said, the main part of this, what spurred this, is the change order for wastewater treatment plant 1 due to the structural redesign. And then just the unprecedented inflation, cost escalation on everything we're doing, materials, chemicals, fuel, personnel, everything costs more than what we anticipated. Our rate structure currently simply won't support it, so we've got to look at this again. One thing that was not in your memo that the board asked last week that we would add is that we would go ahead and add in some dollars for planning of the expansion of wastewater plant 2. It's not happening anytime soon, but we know that it is coming, and they asked for us to go ahead and include some funds there on the planning and design. It will not be construction cost. It will simply be planning and design. We know that's coming. Things that are not included that we will not look at in this study, as I just said, construction of an expansion of plant 2, anything that we want to do on future water supply, and anything related to expansion of service area. Those are things that we're not looking at right now. We're maxed out on what we can truly look at. So that's kind of a snapshot of what we're going to include, what we're not going to include, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Chase, will there be a comparison of other districts or other communities? Will that be a part of the scope of this project?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've always enjoyed a position on the left hand of that graph, David. I'd say we might move more toward the center of the graph. I don't think of the area development district water utilities that are studied. I don't think we're gonna join the real high ranks.
I agree.
We will have an increase, but I think it'll be marginal in through there. I do think this is the next appropriate step for the council to take to determine just
Can you
exactly.
remind me what year we're in of the current 5 year?
The fiscal year is, we just started the 4th year, I believe.
I think that's correct. So, is there a motion for approval of, motion there? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Todd. And if there, we'll be hearing lots more detail about this. But if there are no other questions now, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item D is another study, another important next step for GMWSS. And that is a sanitary sewer hydraulic model. Again, Chase, if I could just give the council a little context. This is very important to GMWSS and to the council right now. It's very important. This hydraulic model will look at all of our sewer system and our service area and give us the scientific data on how to make the best choices to service certain areas in the future. GMWSS right now is under some pressure from folks who don't quite understand our history and current circumstances. There are demands for additional line capacity to northern Scott County. Very specifically, there are very specific demands for additional sewage line capacity to the Sadieville exit and areas immediately adjacent to that. What GMWSS Board of Commissioners and Chase and his staff and what the council have to keep in mind is this model will show us all of northern Scott County. And there's a big area up there. We don't have the luxury of targeting one solution for one problem when we need to look at an entire area. So the data that will come from this hydraulic model will guide really smart decisions about how we expand our system to fit the needs rather than to fit political pressures. And the political pressures are quite real. And they can make GMWSS real uncomfortable. But I think if we do our business correctly and we do the modeling to get the right data, then we can let folks that have interest in other service areas know that we're making legitimate progress in the steps that we have to do it to make it long-term successful. Some would lead us to act far more quickly than it's going to be prudent to act. And I just, as context, it's important that we understand that this is going to be a series of steps before we can give some answers that they're seeking and continue to, in fact, demand. We're just going to do this correctly. So if that's a fair enough introduction, I'll let you talk about the hydraulic model.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And again, thank you for teeing that up. I have a 15, 20-minute presentation. I can run through that if you want to tell you about what we're going to do. If you don't need to hear that, that's fine too. That's council's preference.
Water Board's seen it. I'm happy for them to go through it. It's highly technical. Can you do it in 15 or less?
I'll do my best.
I think council deserves to see the high points.
I think
because
it'd be
it's a
beneficial.
baseline study.
I think it'd be very beneficial. I'll start, and again, I'll be brief, but John Schubarth, he's here with me. He represents Hazen, the company we're recommending for this project. If that firm name or his name sounds familiar, they're a design engineering firm on the South Sewer Extension. Incredibly difficult engineering project, and they walked us through it very well, so we're excited that we hope to bring them on board for this equally as critical effort. So if you have any real technical questions, you can ask John. But again, the board's seen this, and just wanted you all to understand why we're going through this effort, why we're spending this money. Why did we budget for this project? What is a model? Why do we need it? When do we use it? How much it's going to cost? That's what I want to go through. So we'll just step back real quick and say, we all know the issues that we're having keeping up with growth on all level of public services, water and sewer specifically. And as we continue to have this growth, we have increased demand on our sewer system. Water system too, but we're talking about sewer system. Population is expected to double by 2040. Our customer base is expected to double as well. There's not a week goes by that we don't get an availability request for new service. As it says there, we must, as a responsible utility, we must ensure and provide that we're going to be able to maintain that growth of that system. We're planning for it properly. And we have to do that through careful engineering analysis. We can't just hope that it works. This is something that we can't afford to fail on. So development of this model, it creates a way to help us analyze the impacts of new development, new flow that we're adding to the existing system. Planning and zoning, the city, the county, we talk about this at Scott County United. We're all discussing how do we plan for this growth that's occurring and is going to continue to occur. And these discussions are taking place related mostly to the comp plan update and the the regional and local economic strategic plans that Jack Connor's heading up. These land use maps, as Councilmember Stone and Hampton know, we've looked at these. I mean, this is all we look at every month at the comp plan update. We're very familiar with these. Now more than they've ever been considered. And what's the one question that's just totally taken over those meetings is, how are we going to provide sewer service to all these areas? Mayor already said the interchange at Sadieville, but beyond that, all over. How are we going to do that? Well, the answer is a hydraulic model. That's where we start. That's the responsible next step. So what is a model? Simply a tool that will help us understand, as I said, how new flow added to the system is going to impact the existing system. It's really all it is. So what are those things that can impact the system? Like I said, new flow, major rain events that affects I&I coming into our system, and also how we upgrade the system. We can use a model to help us do all of those things better than we're currently doing. So when do we model? Like I said, system planning is going to be critical as we move forward, helping us make smart decisions in planning. System expansion is expansion areas, new customers, new growth. It's going to help us operation and maintenance of the system. When we have problems, we can use the model to help us diagnose problems in the existing system. It's going to help with future design and upgrades, pipe sizing, pump sizing, things of that nature. Why do we model? Well, modeling simply, it's another tool that helps us increase our level of confidence when we make decisions. The biggest one that we face every month, I take and I give these availability requests to the board commissioners, and that's their job. They have to say these are approved or they're not. And one commissioner always says, "What's staff's recommendation?" before he'll say anything. And so the model is how we answer that question. Should we approve this availability request? In addition to that, that's the new development side. Again, the existing system guides our operation and maintenance. We can do that better if we have a model. We can perform, the biggest thing, we can perform alternatives analysis to help us make better decisions, find that optimal solution to a problem before we ever move forward with a project, once this is complete. So June of this year, we issued a price-based request for price proposals to 5 firms that specialize in this kind of work. Also have a local presence. Probably any engineering firm out there can do an isolated model for a project. We're talking about a system-wide model. There's only a handful of firms that can do that. We sent it out to 5. We got 4 responses. This is professional services. We could just go directly to a firm, negotiate a contract and price, but our board has demanded that we have competitive prices on everything on behalf of our customers, so this was no different. Services included field survey, flow monitoring, and precipitation monitoring. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. The development of the model, calibration of the model, and then there will be continued services as well. The consultant will stay under contract, and as we need modeling services on behalf of a new development customer, the developer will pay the consultant's fee at that established hourly fee, so we can have those services to evaluate anything that's going to be a new connection to our system. What's included, we're going to model all of our gravity interceptor and specific collector sewers. Difference there, collector sewer, think if we're going to do a new residential development, all the sewers, small diameter pipe within that residential development, those are your collectors. Your interceptor is what takes the flow, conveys it all the way to the plant. Those are your larger diameter sewers and your pump stations and force mains. So we will have all of those modeled with just some specific critical collector sewers included. What does this help us do? After development of the model, calibration of the model, we can utilize this to help evaluate the availability requests and just make better overall decisions for our system. And again, we can get back to keeping the consultant employed, keeping them under contract, and we pay for that not out of our money, but that's part of the application process moving forward. That's where the policy will get developed.
And Chase, I just noticed on that last slide, you anticipate some of those ongoing costs be paid by the developers.
That's correct. Said we'll do flow monitoring, precipitation monitoring. That's kind of what this looks like. This is getting it out into the weeds, into the technical, but this is the inside of your sewer pipe. This is the actual flow sensor. You've got the cable as it comes up here, goes to a data collector. That's where we get our flow monitoring data. It's also, we'll be setting up rain gauges throughout the community. It's how we establish, in addition to our historical usage data, we'll establish our base flow and our peak flow, how the rain events with the I&I in our system, how they affect that peak flow that we have to be able to handle and not allow to escape the system. So this is, again, this is a 30,000 foot look from a sewer engineer, but not a modeler. The model, it's a dynamic, it's a skeletonized mathematical, computerized representation of our system. So if you're thinking about it in terms of what it looks like, you've got our customers. Example here is our residential and our industrial. Discharge flow into the system goes through this pipe network, gravity sewers, pump stations, force mains, ultimately gets to the treatment plant. It's treated there, discharged to a stream. We take this and we turn it into this in a computer program where we've got still our customers, our sewer sheds, goes through the pipe network, ultimately gets to the treatment plant. For our whole system, it'll be a lot more complicated, but again, that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of what we're trying to achieve. So what is our output? What does this give us that's usable? So this is an example of a model run output from another community that has a model. Not our community, but as you can see here in the blue, you've got the blue dots. Those are existing manholes, and the blue lines are existing pipe. And then down here in the yellow, this is what we'd be modeling as a new development for this area right here. They're adding flow from this new proposed area to this existing system. So what's the effect? We need to know this before we make any approvals. So as you can see, here's the profile view. And you can see here 2 manholes up the line, that line's full of water when we've added that flow. Then we start to see our manholes surcharging all the way up the line. And we can also tell we've got 2 sanitary sewer overflows. This is something we cannot allow. This is where Division of Water will come in here and issue the agreed order, the consent decree, all of the penalties. This is what we have to avoid. The model helps us locate those potentials. So we can go back, work with the developer and say, look, either you got to drop back and punt on this isn't going to work, or we have to say, if you're going to do this, we've got to make some capacity upgrades in this area. This tells us how we can do that ahead of time. Again, just another model run output. Different scenario. I'm not even sure the scenario on this one, but this just shows opposite of the previous slide. Gravity sewer with good flow, no surcharges, no overflows. This is what we want for all of our projects, whether it's new development or whether it's an internal Georgetown Municipal project. We can build that in the computer space, see if it's going to work ahead of time. Project goals. What do we want out of all this? Just again, we can incorporate all of our designs into the model, and we can anticipate those problems, the bottlenecks, the backups, excessive run times at pump stations. We can look at all of that in a model, and we can make decisions before we actually design, before we actually go to construction on things. Can anticipate those issues before they happen, so we're being proactive instead of retroactive when we have something come up. Internally, as I already said, it's going to help us to better manage our existing infrastructure. When we need to upgrade a line, upgrade a pump station, we can go ahead and do that alternatives analysis in this computerized space. Let the model tell us what the pipe size should be, what the pump size should be. Also, it can help guide our operation and maintenance operations. What's all this going to cost? Well, we put in $300,000 for our FY23 budget, and as I said, we sent this out to 5 firms. Hazen submitted the low cost at $399,000. We negotiated with them, came in at a final budget of $292,373. If approved, we hope to execute the contract this month, go to field survey. That'll be through this fall and into the winter. We'll do our flow monitoring next spring, start late February, go through May, and we hope to have a working, running model with a final report in June of '23.
I am impressed, Jay.
Thank
I'm
you.
thinking, if we had this 10 years ago, I'm just saying it out loud.
Yeah.
But I just want to just commend you and appreciate, let you know how much I appreciate this information and how you brought that to us. And one of the questions I did have, which you just answered, was that you have the capacity of being able to tell about our existing infrastructure, which is crucial. So I'm impressed. I like the idea and ongoing.
I think we're ready for this.
Yes.
We're at a size of our system, we're ready for it. We've limped along without it, and I'm not saying we've made bad decisions without it.
No.
We're ready for it now.
It's a
John?
huge tool. I'm sorry, Mayor.
John, on a hydraulic study, is given how weird weather patterns have been in the last couple of years, are you confident with seeing typical seasonal patterns within that study period?
That's definitely our goal. We've got everything set up. We're going to put rain.
Sorry, if you could come up, John, we might have you on camera.
Sorry. That is definitely our goal. But we got, the flow monitoring that we're going to do starting in February, as Chase said, probably through May. Try to catch the rain as much as we can. We'll put rain gauges out. We'll put flow monitors out. We'll try to determine the effect of the rain versus what happens in the sewer system as a result of the rain. If we can establish that interrelation between the rain and what happens in the response in the sewer system, then we can kind of extrapolate that to future flows if we need to be, or more serious rain events, that we may or may not have gotten. So we're hoping there's a little gamble there. And that's really where the most of the money is the sub-consultant of ours who's going to go out and put these monitors in the sewer systems, who's going to put rain gauges out there, who's going to gather this data for us that we can then build the model from.
So the hard data is the biggest expense.
It really is for this effort. And then we've got surveyors going out. We're going to survey manhole elevations to make sure that, again, all the information, it's garbage in, garbage out, as with anything. And if we got good data that we're going to be able to pull into the model, we're going to be able to give you a really good model that'll really be able to predict what happens during rain events or just as new customers come on.
The thing that was attractive to me about this concept when we first started looking at the South Sewer Line, if you'll recall, we looked at a bunch of different scenarios. I think we started off, John, with 9 original scenarios that were going to be considered for the South Sewer Line project. It was just staggering how many options there were. But just through correct design and taking the time, for the first time, I think we actually went to 30,000 feet and looked at our system as a whole. And rather than a series of annual projects that led us to a bunch of pump stations and incremental growth in the system, with that 30,000 foot view, Hazen was able to see the potential improvements to our system that are going to make such a difference that we did. So we've learned the value of sometimes not looking year to year, but going to a much higher altitude and looking at what our needs are. And this is a sewer version of this at a time when GMWSS is going to be asked to provide new service, and we really better understand it.
I'd just add to that, as you kind of framed this in the context of how do we help the city of Sadieville right now, we could probably suggest some real quick solutions. It's exactly what they'd be. They'd be thinking about, okay, let's solve this problem, but it's probably going to create 3 more, and it's not going to help the ultimate issue. again, this is a tool where we can examine alternatives, as the mayor said, in this virtual space to figure out what's the best, most optimal is the term I always like to use, long-term solution. And we can do that throughout the system.
So you're thinking for time frame, starting this in like January or February and doing it all through April and May to get that information for the rain? And
That'll be the flow monitoring
things like
portion.
that?
Mhm.
And then how long would it be, would it take you to be able to come up with some kind of idea, for lack of a better word, for safety?
I think, as I said, the schedule dictates that we have this up and running in June of next year. I think that's an easily obtainable goal with the fact that we can do the surveying, be building the model all through this time, and then get that flow data there at the end, calibrate the model, tie it all together. And then I think it's just, we sit down with Hazen and look at, as we did on South Sewer, and it's almost similar in that you're bringing on a new service area to the south. Well, we want to do the same thing north, and we can just sit down and look at alternatives analysis, and I would hope it would go a lot faster because we did the south without a model. It wasn't easy, so.
This will help you gauge better with having that information, that
Mhm.
data,
Mhm.
making better choices.
Absolutely.
And Connie, what it'll help GMWSS look at is, as we look at servicing more area to the north, it's not just Sadyville.
Right.
There's already service requests from Mallard Point and other subdivisions on the way there that already have existing requests that are bigger in scale and scope than the whole city is. So there's just considerations about how that resource should be extended.
And another one is the Northwest Bypass. How are we going to
Yeah.
sewer that? I mean, it's ready, and you all have made it ready. So we need to have a plan, and this is how we do it responsibly.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, Chase. We talked about the Northwest Bypass created another landmass equal to almost a third of the current size of Georgetown. That has to be sewered and ultimately developed correctly.
Well, I'm not a technical person, but I can absolutely see the value in you having something like this in order to make good decisions for our community.
I hope we've made the case. So.
Is there a motion for approval?
What can I say?
Oh, you sure can,
Real
David.
quick.
Take your time.
First of all, John, thanks for, negotiating the bid.
Yeah.
Maybe some things might have pulled out, and I understand how that is. Sometimes you say, hey, well, how can we create some efficiencies? And you pull a few things out that maybe you could live without. But the bottom line is, thanks for your willingness to do that. I saw the other bids, and they were obviously, some of them were close, but others were really up there. When you're looking for the infiltration, I guess, not only do you identify, but does it give you a way to reduce or eliminate the infiltration, to reduce the flow coming into the system?
I think that we've done, just in the last 2.5, 3 years, we've done a really great job with attacking the areas that we already know. Our pump stations don't run that long during a dry period. Then when we get some rain, they're running 24/7. We know where those areas are, and we've had a very active program, and we think we've made considerable progress there. However, I think that this will show through the flow monitoring and establishing that base flow and the peak flow, we'll know and be better able to isolate our problem areas and identify fixes, whether it's just simply that we need to go in and slip line a line to eliminate leaks or seal up a manhole. But there's also areas where we might need parallel lines that we can identify. And again, we can run that scenario before we ever have to do anything that costs us a lot of money.
And then part of the study will be analyzing the existing line, I guess, in Sadyville. Just to give us some true data so that we'll know what possibilities for that line might be.
Correct.
And then, is this an opportunity? Is this an opportunity for the water company in terms of, a lot of businesses do, they want to grow. economic growth is obviously good for the community. Is that part of what you're looking at here? I mean, is this an opportunity for the water company? And I guess most of this will go to wastewater treatment plant number 2, right? Is that correct? Or
This
one?
will be an entire system-wide.
Okay.
We're even including stamping ground in this. This will be, so all 3 plants and the entire system. And I guess to your point, I do see it as an opportunity, and I hope that everybody sees it as that. Again, if we approve something that we think is great for Georgetown, just from every metric, but we don't do the analysis and it creates a sanitary sewer overflow, we haven't benefited the community at all. So we have to be able to, again, meet the demand of the planned growth. And this is how we do it.
Chase, you mentioned the future development would pay the consulting fee going forward.
This would be similar to part of our plan review that we are in the process of establishing fees for that. Right now, we do a lot of engineering work for free that most other utilities do not. And so this will just be part of our review process. When somebody comes in and wants new service, they're looking to add to the system, we'll do a model run. We'll check it to make sure it's all going to work, that our approval is not creating a problem that we will have to go back and fix on the backs of our existing customers later.
And do you have any idea of ballpark what that would add to the developers?
It's going to depend on the size of the development and the type.
John, just one final question. We're going to create a mathematical model based on real-world observations. In your past experiences, do those models really reflect reality? I mean, are they good at reflecting reality?
Well,
and
Yes. I mean, part of what we're doing, and, we're going to build the model. I mean, we're not going to wait for the flow monitoring and stuff that we're going to do in the spring. We're going to build the model this fall. And then we'll get the flow monitoring, and then we calibrate the model. So we really we run it through a lot of tests to make sure the model is exactly what it says. We can almost tell you if it's going to rain 3 inches in this area, this is where you could have overflows. This is where your pump stations could be at capacity. This is where your interceptors could be at capacity. We should be able to tell you that information. So the easy answer is yes, but the proof's in the pudding, and we'll have to prove that to you. That the model we produce is a real indication of the real world and what happens when it rains in certain areas or when you have capacity and growth in certain areas. So yeah, and then again, the emphasis of that is model calibration. So we go through the process with Chase and his staff to go out there and make sure that we got everything running and it reflects the real world and what's happening.
thank you.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for approval.
Mayor, I'm going to second that, please.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other questions for Chase or John? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, that carries. Andrew was right, our meeting would have been a lot shorter.
I hope it was beneficial, and I at least hope that our two folks that represent us on the comp plan, when we continue to get these tough questions, we'll have some better answers now. I'm sorry. Well, I forgot both of us.
On there, so all four of us can
So
do that.
that's all we've done so far. So thank you all.
Good information, thank you, Chase.
2 significant steps forward. Thank you very much, Chase. Item 9, under city engineer. Hey, Eddie. We've got all kinds of municipal orders, approving contracts for just all manner of road building.
Yeah, there's 6 total. The first 3 are routine. We do these every year. They're part of the paving, asphalt paving and construction. All 3 are with Hamilton Hinkle, and they were competitively bid. We opened the bids about 2 weeks ago and evaluated them. And so A, B, and C are all with Hamilton Hinkle related to street paving and
Sounds good. We can take those together, I think. Is there a
Yeah.
motion?
Make a motion for that, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded. We're voting on A, B, and C. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, Eddie.
Yes. Number D is part of the West Main Street project, the streetscape project downtown at Royal Springs. They are some items that we ran into some unknowns in the field, particularly putting in all the storm drainage system. We ran into a lot of other utilities that were buried, and we ended up having to pull some pipe up and relay it. We had some items that were omitted off the drawings that we have to pick those items up, related to sidewalk and also to the bituminous paving. We were hoping to do this project and piggyback on the state's paving of West Main Street, and we got delayed, and and so we had to go back and pick that work up. So those are change orders 2 and 3, and they have been approved through KYTC for reimbursement through the grant, the TAP grant that we received for the project.
Good.
So we are only paying the 20%, and they pick up the 80% of the cost.
Thank you. Is there a
through
motion
that.
for approval?
Motion.
Thank you, Greg.
Second, Mayor.
And second, Connie. If there are no questions there, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We're back to the Walmart delineators.
Yeah,
They're our favorite.
that's been
They're
a
our
long,
favorite.
drawn-out thing.
I encouraged Eddie just to bring us the solution that the state has offered to, if we put in the delineators all the way from that new exit to the intersection.
Do like.
So it's a continuous line of the stand-up job, the delineators. We're gonna pay for that one time.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a state maintenance responsibility, and we are forever done with it. Or we can replace what's there only, and we continue to maintain it and replace them.
Yeah.
I told Eddie that I thought it was time to bring the recommendation to fix it once, give the responsibility to the state, and let's be done.
I'll
So
make a
the-
motion for that, Mayor.
Thank you.
But you said this will take it all the way up to the light?
Yep.
To the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, right where the right in, out is, all the way up to the streetlight.
Okay.
Yeah. 800 feet
Thank you, Todd.
approximately. Just one note on this, these are quotes that we received. It will go out to bidding, and we will competitively bid them.
Yeah,
But
just
we
make-
expect it to be, in that range. We'll bring that back
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
Um,
Did we vote on that?
First and second, all in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. With the help of my friends. And item F, we're really tickled to be at this point, a municipal order approving the upgrade on streetlight poles on state roads. David, you and Mark have been asking about these kind of improvements for a very long time. I mean, years. We've talked about wanting better looking streetlights at those state roads. And while the state won't pay for them, council has insisted that you want to see them. And I'm proud of you. We're getting there.
Do you have a cost on that, Eddie?
Yes.
The upgrade?
Yeah, it's in the MO.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's in the,
43,000?
yeah.
That's something.
That's,
Takes care of 9 intersections.
that's 9. I'm going to read through the intersections because it's been a while, just so everybody. One intersection is the bypass in 460 West. That's Wendy's and Rural King and all that. One's US 25 and 32. One is the bypass in 460 East. One is Paris Pike and Scotland. One is Paris Pike at Fat Cat's Pizzeria. One is Paris Pike and Falmouth. One-
those are intersections.
Yeah, all those.
Specifically mentioned.
Paris Pike and Thorndale, Paris Pike and Elkhorn Green, Paris Pike and Crumball. So most of them are on 460 going out towards Paris, and it's real dark there, and it will light up all those intersections for the people who live out there.
If this municipal order passes, is it something that we're going to get started on right away, or is there going to be a delay on what's the time anticipated?
I'll give a work order as soon as you give the go-ahead, and then it's up to KU to schedule the work and get it put in. And this is for the metal poles and the underground electric, rather than the wood poles.
So,
The cost.
okay, so that's just like, that's 9 poles. I remember Nick and I drove
Yeah.
around, all around Scott County, and I know we came up with a longer list than this.
Well, we had 9 intersections. There's like 31 total poles. Each intersection has multiple
Mhm.
lights out there. So,
Okay. Well, I guess this determines whether or not $43,000 is too much money to spend when you can get them for free.
right. Yeah, it's-
This is a pride issue, and I think when we see them, it's gonna be money well spent. Have we don't have a motion yet, do we?
That was supposed to be round.
Motion.
Is there a motion to approve this MO, Mark? Thank you. Motion's been made. And second, Tammy, thank you. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? That carries. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Eddie. I think when we first asked Eddie to do that, he was like, really? You actually want me to go do that? Yeah, we do. Okay. Item 10 under city attorney is first reading of an annexation ordinance for 2300 Cynthiana Road. Sponsors, Mr. Showalter and Ms. Tackett. Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance annexing of the city of Georgetown certain real property containing approximately 5.3 plus or minus acres located on Cynthiana Road in Scott County, Kentucky. Summary. 1. Annexes into Georgetown city limits by written consent of the property owner in accordance with KRS 81A 412, approximately 5.3 acres of property located on Cynthiana Road in Scott County, Kentucky. Provides for repeal of inconsistent laws. Sarah Wills is provisions with effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time August 8, 2022.
Thank you. We'll have second reading next meeting.
Mayor, if I could.
Yeah.
Chief Thompson,
Yes, sir.
how's this gonna affect you and your ability to service this property?
This is right across from the business park, correct?
No.
Why don't you come up here, Tim?
Cause I know you're stretched thin and already.
Yeah, this is definitely the area that we discussed, those gap areas, but what exactly is this? I know that in some of the plan reviews, we had like a pet place coming
It's a
in.
vet's office.
A vet's office, yes. Is that what,
And the annexation was a condition of the, I don't know if it's a condition of planning commission, but it's a condition of the development that it be annexed into the city.
this one particular building isn't going to be the issue. It's just in general that area.
Adding to it.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tim. That completes the formal part of the items 1 through 10 on our agenda. Item 11 is council comments. And Mark, can we start with you? Tim?
I talked to the mayor this week about an idea I have for our corner park type area where we demolished the house recently. And it looks like it's gonna be a little time before we're able to do everything that we want to do to the property. And so I was thinking, I found a place where we can get 2,000 daffodil bulbs for $600. And I was thinking that in the meantime, that if we bought those, it would make it pretty for however long we needed to. In the springtime, those things will come up through concrete. If you've ever planted them, they multiply. And they did something similar to out at the hospital. And I just thought it would be a nice way to do something temporary. And then when we get ready to do the work that we need to do what we have to do with the water and so forth, that we can either move them, but they're so inexpensive that some of them probably won't be in the way and they can continue to multiply. And, anyway, I just thought it might, people have asked me why to get in a hurry to tear the house down if you're not going to go ahead and do something now. And I know we have to have things in place before we make big decisions. This is a small one that might make it pretty in the spring. And so I just thought I'd ask if y'all think that's a good idea.
Be pretty on the corner.
I mean, I think people notice it. And,
The first
Pretty.
responder memorial garden at the hospital, I think as it blooms every year, is gonna be a real splash of color at the entrance to town. And it might be pretty.
well, if we, I think it's an inexpensive way to make it pretty for a short time, so, until we get ready to do the big plans. So, and that's all I have.
Okay.
Do we need to do anything with that, Mayor? Or
Well,
put it
it-
on the agenda, bring it back?
It's within a budget amount that
Mhm.
it doesn't really require council action, but y'all let us know it's quicker. It's a,
Mhm.
it's a way to show some color.
Fall under Robert thumb, so.
Yeah.
Or whatever Robert's do.
I'll go to the Public Works Committee and see if they'll approve it.
I'll come down there and supervise. I have a lot of daffodils in my yard, so. Anyway, and I do think we had a little money in the budget for, that corner in this year's budget. And, it's a drop in the budget to do that. So
Thank you. Anything else?
that's
Okay,
it.
Todd? Okay, Tom?
I don't have anything, Mayor, thank you.
David?
I'll pass.
Great.
I'm good.
If there's nothing else to come before the council,